Welcome back to What Would You Ask podcast. My next guest, you'll remember Heidi. As soon as I tell you who she is, you're going to go, oh yeah, I remember her. The Apprentice, season 1. I mean, come on, guys. I delivered for you, right? You don't want to get the guy in season 6 that got exited first week, whoever that is. We don't bring you that. I bring you Heidi Bressler. Come on. Attitude, right? Personality, not bad looking. Not sure I'm supposed to say that, but anyway.
Oh God, I don't give a shit. Am I allowed to swear? Sorry.
Yeah, you could swear. Oh. Anyway, there she goes. That's the voice of Heidi. We're going to talk to her about the journey. She appeared as one of the the Apprentice candidates or contestants is what I'm trying to say on season 1 on the NBC hit show. I believe it was NBC. Heidi Bressler, welcome to What Would You Ask podcast. I'm glad you're here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So tell us what started this whole thing. This is season 1. It's not like it's season 5 where people know about it. It's a big deal, right? This show took off. It's season 1. No one knows about it. How did you even find out about The Apprentice?
It's so funny. I saw a commercial and Donald Trump was like, can you be The Apprentice? And I'm like, I can do that. So short of long, I called my friends. I'm like, it's on Philadelphia. It's like on Saturday. It's an open call. Will someone go with me? They're like, no. I'm like, fine, I'll go by myself. Everyone was in suits and ties, and I'm in jean shorts, flip-flops, and a tank top. The line was so long. I was getting upset because I was missing my manicure. I almost left. So by the time I was in the round table, I was on fire. I was so angry. So I went, I think I fought some guy at the table. I'm like, what are you, a spokesperson? Like I was angry, and the casting person saw that. And then that led to all of the next interviews.
Got it. So do they kind of we're doing Survivor here series. We're doing Amazing Race. And it seems like any Mark Burnett thing, they pull a final group together, get them out to LA, and you do that kind of thing. Tell us a little bit about that when you find out you're heading to LA.
Well, it's interesting. So when you're headed to LA and you can't talk to anybody, I mean, you'll see other cast people. You're not allowed to talk to them or you're sent home. So you're basically stuck in your room until you have to do a series of interviews with Mark Burnett, producers. You have to do psychological tests, a lot of different interactions. But what I did was I brought my laptop and I just worked from in my room when I wasn't there, when I wasn't doing anything. So it was fun. And I was never nervous. I was never like, okay, I'm like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. I was always myself.
Did you find out there that you were going to be a contestant? Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Wow. That's great. Yeah. How much longer after your LA trip do you start filming in New York? Was it months?
No, I believe it was about 4 weeks later.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. First time you see Mr. Trump is when?
Oh, this is the greatest. So the first time you see him is when you go into the boardroom. I was the first person, I guess, to walk in the elevator and go into the waiting room. And when she said to me, can I help you? I'm thinking, what do you mean, can you help me? So I'm like, I'm here for the Trump thing. I'm like, oh my God, and they aired it. So they must have said to everybody else, tell everybody to say that they're here to see Mr. Trump. Because I'm thinking, what is she thinking? What do you mean, what am I here for? So yeah, that was the first time I met him. Yeah, that was great. That was great.
That's it. That's cool. That's good to hear that the real,
Oh yeah, when you meet him in the boardroom. Yep.
And George and I forgot. Carolyn, yeah. They were in there too. That's cool.
Yep, they were in there.
So he divides the teams up. I want to get a sense and jump right into it. He divides the teams up into men and women. And what do we see from a filming standpoint? We always see, the task being rolled out to you guys, and then you guys starting to do the task. Tell us a little bit about the time frame. Are those 3 or 4 days to do those things? Is it all the same day? Tell us a little bit about how much it takes to film the task.
It really all depends on the task. So for example, the lemonade stand, that was 1 day. But then you have the net jets, and that took 3 days. It all depends on the task. They weren't longer than 2 to 3 days, but they could be as short as 1 day or as long as 3 days.
Got it. When you were early on, you're meeting everybody there, and folks, you'll remember, Sam and Omarosa and Nick and obviously Bill Rancic that ends up winning the whole thing, and Kwame and Troy and all the folks, Erica. Do you size them up? Heidi, I know your background at the time was in sales and telecommunications, and understand the art of the deal and not, I'm just saying
Mhm.
that because of Trump, but negotiations and all that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
imagine you are sitting in that room going, let me look around and see who's polished and who's speaking and how articulate they are and bright. Are you doing a little bit of that?
Well, you're always sizing them up. You didn't really hear them speak much until you got out of the boardroom. That is when we were first allowed to interact, is when we actually went into our place where we were living in Trump. We weren't allowed to speak to each other.
Got it.
So the only thing I heard of them was, "Hi, I'm here to see Mr. Trump." You're sizing them on what they wear, but that, yeah, I mean, that's in general. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and tell us a little bit about the apartment. There's 16 of you guys, right? When there's 16 to start,
Yeah, there's
how
16 of
big, what,
us.
and you're in Trump, are you in Trump Tower, staying in Trump Tower?
Yeah, but it's basically like it was made for The Apprentice. So you walk into this made studio. It
Yeah.
isn't Trump Tower, but
Yeah.
you're sharing a room. I shared with Erica. There's no ceilings, there's no doors, there's cameras everywhere, there's lights everywhere. So there basically is no privacy.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's fine. I don't know. You're used to, you understand it. So yeah. So was it an apartment? Absolutely. But was it made for us? Yeah, of course. It has to be.
So tell us a little bit about the first task. So you go out and do the lemonade stand. I thought, I mean, you start to really see, what you guys are
First.
selling glasses of lemonade for $5. Little bit of, female charm involved in the
Mm-hmm.
early ones. You guys don't deny that. You get reprimanded later on, and we'll talk about that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look over at the guys, and they're just trying to figure it out. It was just like, Sam and crew are just trying to figure it out. Tell us.
It's all,
I thought it was a great task to start with because
oh,
everybody's
sure.
new, first show ever. Let's just see some go out, and I don't know why they go. Obviously I'm from here, so I get where they're going. But you guys are in Manhattan doing it, and they go out.
They
to,
were
I
like
think,
under a
Square.
bridge.
Yeah, they're like, what? Yeah, they're under the Triborough Bridge. No, anyway, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, they were a little bit clueless about selling lemonade. I don't think they were really into sales. Maybe I was wrong, but Nick was into sales. I can't say that. I take that back. I don't know what they were thinking. It's all about location, as Trump has always said, and their location killed them.
And then,
And I also think being men. I mean, we had a little bit one upper being women.
and then skipping over to the NetJets thing, you guys, when and obviously I've watched this thing a few times, season one, and the whole phallic symbol advertising campaign. I'm initially when you thought of it, I'm like, no way, he's gonna get ticked off about this and da da da, and it was the opposite. And so I want your feedback on all this. And then when I saw you guys present it, it wasn't erotic, it was symbolistic, but it was kind of cool. I mean, it wasn't like I thought it was going to be when I first started thinking about it's going to be all that, but it wasn't bad. And the second part I want your feedback on is, what were the guys, and I know you can't speak for them, but they didn't even interview anyone from NetJets or Marquee Jets or whoever. I mean, do you remember that?
Yeah, of course. I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, honestly, it's not rocket science. I mean, it's sales 101. Whenever you're presenting a product or meeting with a product, you want to know about the agency, you want to learn what they're looking for, get an idea about their personality. So that was the first thing that we thought of. And I don't know what the guys were thinking. They just needed us behind them.
And who was running that task for you guys? Do you remember whose idea was it to do the whole, sexual?
Believe it or not, we all came up with like the sex cells, but believe it or not, it was Tammy who was the one, the little quiet Tammy, clueless Tammy, who was the one who thought about this phallic symbol. And then we all went for it. And I remember being like, sex sells, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm in sales, so let's do it.
Tammy kind of got the stamp of impressive from Mr. Trump, and it kind of carried her a little bit, didn't it? Or is it not Tammy?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
It maybe wasn't Tammy. Who was the one that was hooked up with Nick? Or
Oh, that was Amy. Yeah.
Amy is the one I'm thinking. She got the stamp from Mr. Trump because when you had to switch teams and they were they picked Amy. And then it happened again and pick Amy again. And he was like, wait a minute. And then she did a good job.
Oh yeah, she did a great job. She wasn't anything great. I mean, to be quite honest with you, she did a good job. I always looked at it and I always said, I'm underestimated because I know what these people are doing for a living and I'm really not impressed. The only one I was really impressed with was Katrina with the real estate. There was no one there in terms of the girl side that really, and Bill was super impressive.
Yeah.
I'm talking on the girls. I'm like, what do you guys do for a living? Like, what do you do? Like, I don't even know what you do. Do you work for a company? What do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. But Amy knew how to play it but she kind of disappeared too.
Tammy was the one that, and I don't think you were at this meeting when you guys did the
dupe. When she said she got duped, she thought that Katrina got duped.
Yes, well, that's one thing. But when you did the celebrity auction, wasn't Tammy the one that was asking? She asked, what's his name? Carson Daly. She asked Carson Daly if he can get Tiger Woods on the golf course or something like that. And it was like, wait a minute, you can't tell a celebrity. I mean, Carson Daly's, I guess he's a celebrity. He is a celebrity.
Well, then
But
he is.
you're asking Carson Daly to try to get Tiger Woods.
Oh my God, she was class. I mean, honestly, we cried from Tammy. I'm like, she's got like, there's something missing up there, but she was pure entertainment. She was harmless. She really was harmless.
So at the scavenger hunt, and you guys win, by the way, you win
Yeah.
the lemonade stand, you win the net jets, you killed them. And Trump was like, you just like, how do you not meet with them ahead of this? Right. You do that kind of scavenger hunt thing, you win again. And your rewards, you went to Boston for dinner after
Yep.
net jets. You went to
Yep.
Trump's suite. Tell us a little bit about the rewards. Pretty impressive stuff, right?
Well, it's so funny. Our season, it wasn't like you look at the past seasons after, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Some of the rewards got better and better. My favorite reward was actually when I won and we went in the helicopter ride.
Yeah.
And again, I made a decision I could only bring one. And I told Trump I'm bringing both. Like it wasn't an option. So he liked that. I'm like, I'm not bringing one. I think we all added to this. I'm bringing those two. That was my favorite. The Trump suite was like, whatever. I remember walking in, I'm like, and that was the only time producer was like, back out. Like, you got to be impressed with this. I'm like, oh, okay. So I walked in, I'm like, oh my God, it's beautiful. Gold everywhere.
Yeah, it's a little gaudy in my view.
Yeah, right?
And then 21 Club, you went to 21 Club?
Yes, that was fun too. Yeah, I remember that. God, I forgot about that. Yep, that was a great reward. That was fun. Yep.
I think one of your best moments was in the Planet Hollywood. You know, it's tough, right? If you folks, that from the New York City metro area, you guys know where Planet Hollywood is, and but there's so many options in the city, and how you distinguish yourself and separate yourself. I mean, it's just two groups. It's the guys are hawking, giving out gift coupon cards.
Basketball. They Kwame with the basketball.
And then they fake like Kwame's an NBA player or something like that. With Troy is like, come on in, have Kwame sign your basketball. And it's just, and then Nick and Bill are like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Disaster. You have the idea immediately as you walk around. Again, the women are taking a step back, thinking strategically. They're going in and meet with all the managers and all the people, and they get a tour of the place. The guys are just like throwing caution to the wind and seeing how they can do it. You come up with the idea of let's focus on the bar area, right? And because the profits from a bar are going to be greater, and it ends up being, team ends up earning $16,000 in profit and an increase of 31%. I think the guys were like in the teens. It was embarrassing. It was really bad. Tell us a little bit about that event.
Well, when we went first off Planet Hollywood, all the girls they were just selling dinner, and I looked at the bar. I'm like, anything. I mean, it's in a restaurant, how do they make their money? It's liquor. So we're going to get these people to drink. And that's when I'm like starting to do it. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, just drink. And like, will you do a shot with us? I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? Whatever. And then the other lady saw it was working. So then they participated in selling shots and upselling the shots. And then once somebody is buzzed, you're going to get them to buy more drinks. You're going to get them to buy everything. And then one thing led to another. And we kicked butt. And that was my best sale. I'm in sales. I mean, I was born to be in sales. So I knew that's what it was going to take. And it went from there. We just killed it.
So after that, you guys get to go to the golf course. Do you really golf? I mean,
no, I remember they showed me. My brother-in-law was mortified because he's the biggest golfer. I was the worst. I'm like, can we go to a spa or something? Because I was the worst golfer. Yeah.
So what did you do? What did you do there for? Did you get any reward, or did you just film like you did a reward? I mean, seriously, you didn't do.
Well, we got to see Trump's golf course, and I guess if you love golf, that was a reward. It was not a reward for me.
I've played the course. It is a nice course. There's no doubt.
Beautiful. So
then a couple things happen, Heidi, after Planet Hollywood. The first thing that happens is the reprimand by Donald Trump about the ladies. And I think he really positioned it pretty well for him. Mm-hmm. He's a pretty blunt guy. But he said, look, you guys are better than just the sex appeal. You didn't get on this show out of what I think 250,000 people applied or something like that. You're not here. I mean, think about it. There's 9 of you to start the show. Oh no, it's 8 of you to start off the show. Something like that. And you're the only 8 women in the whole in season 1. And his point was, let's cool it a little bit on the sex appeal. You don't need to do that. How was that received by you guys?
Well, we were fine with it. I mean, because at the end of the day, like when I did The View with Trump, And he even stuck up for us. It wasn't just about sex appeal. That was one aspect of it. What he didn't realize and what the viewers didn't realize was we were actually strategically thinking what to do. It wasn't just about sex appeal. It was about sales. It was about how to promote the product. It was about location. Sex appeal is just one part of it. And if anyone says that doesn't happen in the real world, they're lying, because it does. It does work. Whether I'm in telecommunications, whether I'm in advertising, it's how you look. It's how you present yourself. And listen, sex sells. So I don't care what anybody says. And we were laughing. We're like, okay, whatever.
I've been wearing short skirts for many years.
There you go. Works.
That's right. Well, not necessarily for me. So the other thing that happened in Planet Hollywood was, guys, you were getting your butt kicked so bad that we have to reshuffle the teams. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, imagine if that's the case. And again, I don't care if it's men or women. I've worked with some of the brightest women in the world and some of the dopiest. Same thing with the guys, right? It's not, that doesn't matter. Gender has no bearing of any of this stuff. But the fact of the matter was, you're kicking the butt on all the men. Trump rightly has to shuffle the teams up. You go to the flea market, you guys lose. And then here's the thing where I think it starts to turn with you and Omarosa, because it was an Erica Omarosa thing early on. You guys don't get into it right there, but there's Omarosa handles. Then again, everything I'm saying is from the viewers' perspective, right? Because you know the truth. You knew you were there on site. Yeah. What it looked like to us was that Omarosa is handling the finance. Christy is the quarterback, or she's the captain of whatever of this task. And you guys lose like, I don't even know what, $180 or something like that. And you end up your net loss of $75 for the thing. And when they say that in the boardroom, it's like, what? It's like, wait, you lost money?
That was Omarosa. Look, I was naive in then. Now coming about it, I'd be a little bit more strategic and point out she lost the money. If she handled the finance and the lemonade, she didn't even sell the lemonade. She sat there counting money. How hard is that to do? So the fact that she lost the money for us, it was almost like, but then again, I looked at it, you could walk all over Christy. I mean, she was so soft and didn't stand up and wasn't a leader and didn't direct this and say, okay, I want you guys to do this. She wasn't, I'm just being honest, she was an awful leader.
Well,
and she had Omarosa and I against her. To bring myself and Omarosa into the boardroom was the dumbest thing she could have done. We're going to destroy her in 2 seconds.
Well, I completely agree with that. I mean, you got two people that Trump wants to see people fighting for their lives, not somebody who's passive. No. Christy didn't say anything. I want to ask you a question about the money loss. We all understand that this is a TV show and it's filmed, at Trump Towers. But as you said, it is a kind of a staging, TV staging area. Do these things off camera, when you guys are in the room, are you guys still pissed off that you lost $180? You know what I mean? Is that, are you wondering, did somebody take the money? Is there theft involved, thinking somebody did that? Is it, where could we have lost this stuff?
We did not think of theft, because what are you going to actually do with the money?
That's what
I mean, seriously, you couldn't go in. We didn't think of theft. No, absolutely. We just thought it was carelessness and it was accidental, but it was dumb. Yeah. It was a stupid mistake. And in the real world, you'd be fired for that.
Right.
So no, but we always talked about it. We were so pissed off, but then you don't have time, because again, after that task, you go right to the boardroom, someone's fired, you go right to the next task. So they kind of make you forget about that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't think it was theft.
So you go on to the celebrity auction, and you end up going back to the boardroom.
Yeah.
You and Omarosa just goes off on you in the boardroom.
She calls me classless. Yeah.
Yeah. Lacked professionalism, and she just, and then she actually went after Jesse too. Jesse was in there with you, and she went after her. You find that you could just see you're just starting to boil, like you're just starting to boil. And at first you kind of take it a little bit, give us a little bit back, and then you just let her have it.
Well, So sorry about that.
No, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about what that was like live.
First of all, lack of professionalism. Like, okay, I'm in sales. I'm a little bit scrappy, but there's a reason why I'm more successful. And if you probably looked at our W-2s then, I probably was kicking her butt, because we still don't know what she did for a living prior to this. She says she has a PhD. Where? What did you do? So, and if you know Trump and you know his style, and obviously since you research, he's abrasive, he's brash, he's going to curse at times in the appropriate places. So here was my thought about it when Trump's like, you're going to let her talk to you about that. But I was laughing like, it's Omarosa. Like, I don't care what she has to say about me. She doesn't work with me. She doesn't pay my bills. I don't care. And at the end of the day, I knew if it comes battle to battle, I'm going to destroy her.
Got it. Move on to the apartment rental task. And during that, you find out that your mother has been diagnosed.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how you were so strong during that time. Obviously, you were constantly connecting with your mom.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So, yeah, I mean, when I found out it was on TV, and I truly believe that the producers were super professional, amazing about it, had such a kind heart about it. And at that time, we just didn't know. My mom was in Hackensack Hospital, not always, 20 minutes away. And what was I going to do? She wanted me to stay there. We spoke about it. I had to be strong for her. And I was. And, on the offside, my sister would call the producers, just to let me know like how she's doing. And then even that one time after Omarosa was fired, I went to the hospital to visit her when she was in the hospital at the time. So it was a hard decision to make, but it wasn't. At that time, I didn't know what stage really of my mom was. She begged me to stay on the show. And what was I going to do? Sit there and cry about it? And that's just not how my parents raised me. And they wanted me to stay. Now, listen, if she was like saying, Heidi, we have a week left, I would have been out of there in a second. My family comes first. But I knew at that time, it was just in the beginning stages.
We move on, and you are the PM for the next task with the Trump ice water. Yeah. What a fantastic idea by your team to, I don't know how to say this, but you were suggesting, because you found out early on that people can't buy pallets of this stuff. They have nowhere to put it. So you guys decided to do it kind of on a request basis, right? We'll give it to you a pallet every other week or every 2 weeks or once a month, or that was ingenious. And I think that was one of the biggest reasons why you won the task, was it not?
Yeah, it was the biggest reason. So, and I do give a lot of credit to that on Troy. It was one of his ideas on that, pushing me to say, this is what we do. So yeah, it helped us win. It was a little bit of a boring task, I'm not going to lie, but it was. And the funny thing is, they're like, oh, why did you wait to be project manager? It's so funny because in life, I'm great at managing myself. I love it. Don't ever ask me to be a manager of people, because I would be like, do what you want. Like, I just feel, I'm like, we're all adults. We're all project managers. So no, yeah. I mean, it was a great idea and I went through with it and we made executive decisions and we won. But I think, it was anyone's game. But then I saw how Erica handled it and she was too frazzled.
Yeah. Yeah. She was way too emotional too.
Way too emotional. You cannot carry emotions like that in business.
The art gallery task was next, and
that was my favorite.
Omarosa, now it's time for you guys to meet. I mean, it's almost like you guys are two fighters on opposite side of the ring, and I'll find, Eric is in there a little bit early on, and then Omarosa gives it to you in the boardroom, and you give it back to her. It's like, here we go. And now you guys are on this task. In the interim, Omarosa gets hit by a piece of driftwood or whatever fell from the ceiling.
A snowflake?
A piece of paper, I think.
Yeah.
Omarosa, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but I mean, come on. It grazed you and you had a headache for like 2 weeks. Anyway, I want to get your feedback on what actually happened when you're walking through Manhattan and Omarosa turns to you and says, my head is killing me. I have a migraine. I need to eat something. And she wanted to go for lunch for an hour. And you were just, wait, we have too much to do and we have all this stuff. And tell us a little bit about what was going on there.
So when she wanted to originally section my head, hurt, I want to take a lunch. I'm like, all right, let's just run to a deli, grab a sandwich. She's like, no, I need to sit down. I'm like, no, we don't have time. It was like a nice restaurant. Like, we don't have time. We have marketing stuff to do. I knew in our heart of hearts we chose the worst artist. I could not believe Kwame chose him. We have so much to do, and she wanted to take. I'm like, I'm not sitting down. And she's like, I am. That's when we started yelling in the corner of Soho. And she just went right in the restaurant. And so I have nowhere to go. I can't just go off. I have to wait. Producers felt bad for me. I'm like, oh my God, I can't. So I had to wait there while she was eating. We're in a deli. We're like shoving sandwiches down our throat. And we had to wait for her. But I knew. And I had it in my back pocket. I'm like, oh, I'm going to destroy her if we lose. And I'm like, because who takes an hour lunch? Like, who, you can at times. This was not the time or the place. And I knew the artist we chose was going to be horrendous. So, it was pretty big. And I'm the only one who didn't cry from her. She's like 6 foot tall. I'm 5'3", 100 pounds. And I'm like, what are you going to do about it, Omarosa? Like, I wasn't scared of her. That's when my jersey came out. The Jersey girl, the Snooki came out. I'm like, bring it, Omarosa. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to me?
So you end up in the boardroom with Omarosa again.
This
time you are loaded and armed with a lot of ammo, mainly the lunch situation. I also think Trump certainly sided with you. He was tired of her and her shenanigans, and also how she was treating others, right? And she
Hmm.
kind of, I think it's almost like he, maybe it was Carolyn or George or somebody was telling him that, you know, Heidi's not what she was saying she was, because he didn't know when she first did that thing. He kind of like didn't know, and it seemed like his opinion of Omarosa's criticisms of you were unfounded. So he's like, you know what, we're tired of you. He kind of reprimanded her about all of that, not just the lunch. Did you get that feeling as well, that he was kind of over her?
Yeah, I felt like he was over her. And I also feel like he was always fair to me. I think he knew, I'm saying it like it is. And they know about your background. He knows I'm in sales. He knows I'm going to be a little bit brash at times. I'm trying to be professional, Omarosa, when I'm not screaming at you in the boardroom. And that's the reason why I held back a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it was just, if he had kept her, it would have totally lost the viewers of the show would have realized. I'd be like, what is going on here? I mean, in the real world, if you want to keep it to the real world, and no boss would tolerate that. So yeah.
I think that was also we're doing a number of different series here at What Would You Ask, and with Survivor, and we do The Profit, and we have huge Shark Tank. We've over 100 entrepreneurs in Shark Tank we've done. And it's interesting that some shows will keep that person regardless, just because they know that they're polarizing, right? People hate them or love them. They're good for TV, whatever reason. You had a couple of those people on the show, and Trump and Burnett and others, they allowed them to go. But if they weren't, Omarosa would have been fine in the later, causing havoc later on. Sam, another guy who was very unique, very weird.
Awesome.
Some of the stuff that he talked about, I loved
him.
There was one part
when he shook his hand.
Yeah, where Bill calls him up on the phone, and Bill said, and he says, just give me the number. I want to give him a call. He goes, no, I'm not giving you the number. And everybody's like, he won't give me the number. And he's like, I just want to call and confirm the appointment. And Bill's turned to Kwame. He's like, he won't give me the number. I go, why? And he goes, can we have the number? And he's like, no, I'm not giving you. There's no reason. It's just like, he's the weirdest guy in the world.
Oh my God, he was the great. He was awesome.
And then he laid out in the hallway of the apartment. He said, I'm not going until somebody asks him to come in. It's so classic. But he only ends, he's out in episode 3 or 4. It's just like, you could have hung on to that guy. He's gold for TV, but they also know that there's people not going to buy into the show.
Yes.
If you do that. And they knew that you were better apprentice candidate than Omarosa was.
Oh, yeah.
So she has to go, right? Okay.
Yep.
So before we get to the pedicab, which is your last task.
Well, it really isn't the last, because they bring me back to the final one.
Say that again? Oh, yes.
They bring it, yeah.
Yes. That's true. We'll talk about that as well. But I want to ask you a couple of questions. So your most memorable moment of this whole season 1 of this new show, what would you think when people ask you about it? What do you say about The Apprentice?
Do you mean a specific task or just in general?
In general.
I just think in general, meeting and just being exposed to, we were so naive. Before The Apprentice, it was just really The Bachelorette and Survivor. Really, we were just ourselves. But I think the most memorable moment for me, to be quite honest with you, was the lemonade stand. Because I'm like, this is what we're selling. Like, I'm going from telecommunications and I'm selling lemonade, but I'm going to do it. And I just embraced it. And it really, truly, I just embraced everything that was thrown at me. And, it's just like, you really are like, oh my God, like, this is real. Like, I mean, you wake up, there's cameras in your face, and you don't expect it. People are like, was it staged? I'm like, no, everything was real with us. I mean, it was, what you see is what you get with us.
Tell us about any business lessons. What'd you learn about yourself, teamwork? Tell us a little bit about the business side. Were there some business lessons that we learned here?
Oh yeah. I mean, one of the things that I specifically learned, especially, was, with Trump, and it's funny, ironic now, but you have to stand up for yourself, because if you don't, no one will. And I've been doing that since The Apprentice. There's been situations, I've had to stick up for myself, and I did not back down. And it really helped me. I've also was thick-skinned, but like I said, I'm skin of steel now. I embrace the good and the bad. I know that I'm going to make mistakes in life. I know that it's going to happen. It's how you act on it. But my best lesson was always stick up for yourself, because again, if you don't, no one will, and people will try to steamroll over you. And if you do, it really does help.
Let's go back to the pedicab. And I think that's great feedback and great suggestions for those of you guys listening out there, is just to, I remember as you were saying that, Heidi, that a situation that happened to me early on in working in New York, prepared for this meeting, and these guys just said, "Your company is this, 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 and this," and instead of me defending that, I kind of ate it, and I'll never forget that. That was 25 years ago, and it
Oh,
still
you
bothers me
can't.
that I did not say, "Wait, that three of the five things you just said are completely false," right? And I think if I stood up in that moment, and I make it part of my deal to make sure that I back anything that's not correct. But it was one of those times where I just felt this. I was one rep in front of four different guys, and I just got steamrolled, and I'll never forget that. And so I think
And
that's really good
always do
stuff.
that. And with our clients, I can get steamrolled. They want to. They're going to
Yeah,
challenge you. And
absolutely.
I just had to give a presentation last week to a CEO of a company, and every question that came back to me, I came back. I was prepared. So, and one of the things, the best thing I learned, it was the 12 years when I was with this company, and only for 7 months we had one different publisher, and she wasn't there for long. She was the worst I've ever had. Like, honestly, she was nasty. She just should have never been a publisher. And I was in Atlanta on business, and she writes me an email. She was so nasty. And she writes me an email, and she compares me to Trump. She hated Trump. And I pulled over, and I thought about it. I'm like, okay, we have two ways we're going to handle this. Three ways, actually. Either one, I'm going to go to HR. Two, I'm going to make this viral because you compare me to Trump in an email. Or three, you're going to apologize to me in person. She apologized, and then she eventually resigned. But I stood up for myself. I didn't get upset. Normally people are like, I'm like, what are you going to do? Did you just really compare me to Trump? And I just went off and stood up for myself. So yeah, I'm just saying, if you always, whether it's a client, whether it's a boss, I don't care if you're a CEO or janitor, you don't disrespect somebody. And I'll never, ever take that again. I will never, ever, ever be disrespected. And I learned that from when I looked at myself, how Omarosa, at first I was and I wouldn't take that.
So back to the pedicab, you guys lose that task basically because they sell advertising on the pedicabs. It was a great idea.
Brilliant.
At that time, I started to notice, and I've only watched this thing 6 times in preparation. Okay. But it seems like you are definitely energy. You're not sitting on the sidelines. You're not through this whole show. You're involved. You're intricately involved in every task. You're in the brainstorming, the strategy session, then the physical part, right? On the street, you're pissed at Omarosa because she wants to go sit down because you have the laundry list of things that have to be completed. You're go, go, go. For the first time in this task, it seemed to me, and I might be off base, that there was a little bit of lack of energy on you. And I'm wondering if it was wearing on you what's going on outside of the show.
Absolutely. Well, the before that task, they let me see my mom in the hospital.
Right.
And that's when I was defeated. And remember, you're going 24/7. You're not eating healthy. You're not exercising. And then after seeing my mom, I just didn't, and even I remember that, I just can't win today. And I was just defeated. I just felt like I was defeated. And even when I got fired, they don't show what I really did. And, I wasn't upset. I was actually relieved. I knew I'm that type of person. I knew it was time for me to go. And because of it was my mom. After seeing my mom, I think a person just defeated me.
What did you actually do?
You said seeing my mom?
No, you said they didn't show what you actually did.
Oh, when I got fired?
Yeah.
Oh, they should, because if you look at it, you could see. So when he fired me, I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much. This has been a great opportunity. I really appreciate it. They showed me shaking my head. So the day before when you're about to get fired, you go to New York and the NBC will show you you're firing. And I remember I was crying. I'm like, that's not how I was fucking fired. And they're like, Heidi. Oh, and I remember this is what it was. Because Trump was like, Troy, you're the loser in the last task. Heidi, I'm sorry, this time you're the loser, you're fired. I'm like, I'm not a loser, you're a loser. He was cracking up. They're like, Heidi, you can't call Trump a loser. Like on TV, we can't have that. I'm like, oh. So they didn't say that because I was pissed that he said that. And I was just happy. And it doesn't make sense. You see me angry, and then all of a sudden you see me hugging Troy and Kwame. So that's the only reason why. And I understood why they did it. They didn't want to show me being happy I was being fired. But I was the only contestant that the psychologist didn't have to interview afterwards and didn't have to go through like, are you okay? They knew I was okay.
Yeah. Interesting. So tell us a little bit about you getting brought back at the end. What was that like?
Oh, that was funny. So when you're fired, you have to go to a hotel room. You're very limited to and they actually separated us. So I wasn't with all of the first people. I guess they didn't know, they knew they weren't bringing them back.
Got it.
So I was done with it. And also, we're bringing you back. Like, what? They're like, we're bringing you back. I'm like, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. Like, yeah, sure. I'm like, okay, all right. So then when we went back, and I remember specifically, we had the Atlantic City task. And they're like, we're going to put you in a room with Omarosa. I go, do that? I'm going to smoke cigarettes every single minute. And that's when I smoke. And I didn't even smoke a lot. Like Katrina was smoking, but they only showed me. But I'm like, I'll smoke every minute. And they're like, all right, we'll give you a separate room. Thank you. So I'm like, I need 5 minutes of peace from her. So yeah. And then when they brought us back, and then once I was back, I was very into it. My energy was back. I was really excited to get from Kwame. I really, truly wanted him to win. And my passion was back there. I was excited. So it was 5 minutes of being like, oh my God. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm excited.
That's cool. That's awesome. Did the best person win?
Oh, without a doubt. Bill 1000% deserved to win. He is a true entrepreneur. He is a true professional. I didn't get to work with him. Obviously, I was on opposite teams, but just interacting with him and then seeing on the backside, he won. Oh, it was the best choice ever. And I think it's been the best choice of all the seasons. He is truly a class act kind of guy.
Any truth to the Nick and Amy relationship?
Totally. Yeah, they totally hooked up. And they hooked up off camera, not on camera. They did off camera because I remember Katrina was fired right after me. And then Nick and Amy, they were in a hotel room. And Katrina and I were like listening at the door. And we're totally there. We were like listening. We're like cracking up, like they're hooking up. I was totally did hook up. They totally hooked up.
How about what did you guys do at night? Like, what are you doing? A long day. I know the days are long. So you're probably not partying, but there was one early.
Yeah, the one that we partied.
Yeah,
right?
you guys just went out and like everybody just got.
I didn't. And that was the funny thing is I wouldn't drink on camera. I'm like,
really?
You know what? I'm still working for a class. I don't want to make any bad decisions.
Yeah.
I had fun. You don't have free time because even when you're back at night, you're still strategically thinking. You're thinking about tomorrow, you're doing the next day, and then you're going to sleep. The same thing happens. So they don't let you get any time off. And then if you have downtime for 5 minutes, they're pulling you out to interview you. So you don't have any downtime. There's no downtime.
Do you stay in touch with any of the people you're
yeah, absolutely. Even Omarosa I stay in touch with. I like Bowie I've talked to. It's so funny. I saw Bill. I was at a work event. He was there as a guest. I'm like, oh my God, Bill, it's me. So I do see them. And then obviously through social media, you keep in touch with, and some you're going to lose touch with, but there's no one on my season that I could still speak ill will of. I mean, I think a lot of them disappeared, but I don't think they branded themselves great. So, but for the most part.
So you look, I said this to you before we came on the air, you look exactly like you did when you were on the show, which
I got better.
Look, you're what?
I think I look better.
I'm sorry. If that's not a Heidi comment, I don't know. I try to give her a compliment. She goes, I look better than I did. No, listen, I'm just, 15 years ago, I looked a lot better. So then I do now. But anyway, yes, I was certainly meant as a compliment that you look.
Of course.
You look great. Do people still recognize you today?
Yeah, they do. It's really funny. Even through like a work thing, a client, they'll say, oh my God, now it's obviously it's not as much as it used to be. But for example, they'll say, I know you from somewhere. I'm like, no. And sometimes I'm in the mood, but if I'm at the gym, I don't want to talk about it. They're like, do I know you from high school? I'm like, no. Yeah. But my hairstylist, he was just like, wait, you were in season 1. He just binge watched it, sent me like a clip of crying. So yeah, clients still recognize it. They're like, oh my God, I remember you. So I did the show because I knew it would help in business. So it's interesting.
Couple more questions and I'll let you out of here. We really appreciate the time. We are speaking with Heidi Bressler from season 1 of The Apprentice. What happened post Apprentice? So you guys walk away from this thing and there's nothing on the air. It goes into post-production and then boom, it's on. It makes a huge splash. It gets a following right away. They do the lead in with a bunch of ads and commercials about it. And huge audience. I mean, are you instant celebrity in Philly area, South Jersey? Tell us a little bit about
It's so funny because my job at the time, I didn't have to quit. They paid me salary and my commission when I was doing the show. So I went back, but obviously my heart wasn't into it. Oh yeah, it was crazy. I remember being in New York, I think it was the 3rd week, and people and I was with my friends and they're like stopping to take pictures. And they're like, can we take a picture? Oh my God, there's Heidi, like screaming. So it gave you that taste. I remember I was in New York all the time, and even in Philly, and you'd be there and people would be cheering on you or like taking pictures of you. And you're like, wait, why are you taking a picture of me? Like, I didn't get it. I'm like, I'm just Heidi. So it was definitely interesting. And it gave you a sense like, I cannot believe this is happening. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Tell everybody what you're up to today.
Well, it's funny. So from telecommunications, I was hired to work at Trump Magazine. And that was amazing. That got me into advertising. And then since then, and then Trump Magazine folded, and ever since then been into global luxury advertising. So I love meeting with the clients who still find it hysterical that I was on The Apprentice, and they love it. And that's why I did it. I did it to enhance my sales and my business. I didn't want to be a TV star. Now, by the way, I took advantage. I did Battle of the Network reality stars. We did so many different appearances. I took that year off and I just struck while the iron was hot, and I did it all. And it was awesome. So I made sure I did that, but my ultimate goal always to stay in sales, but always to keep, I didn't try to stay well-known, but I guess I have a pretty strong personality. Don't forget me.
Thank you so much for joining us and telling us about the journey through The Apprentice season 1. That's really cool. And it's good to hear that everything's going well and stuff like that. So I appreciate the time today.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
All right. We'll be back with more of the Podcast.